On the quiet school campus, Matsuboshi sits beside Rina in class. The teacher is in the middle of his discussion, but Matsuboshi can't focus. His eyes drift toward Rina, who doesn't acknowledge him at all. Her silence and indifference form a quiet wall between them, one he can't seem to cross. In their second year of high school, Matsuboshi finds himself beside her once again. He looks around the classroom, unable to tell what kind of people their new classmates are just yet. In his mind, he imagines the usual mix: bossy types who try to control everyone, attention seekers desperate for praise, and competitive students willing to go as far as sabotage. No matter who they are, Matsuboshi vows to protect Rina from all of it. Someone suddenly calls out to him. Ishikawa points out how he and Rina are seatmates again. Hanako is there too, happy they're in the same class once more. Mitsuki is with them this year, though Ishikawa jokes it's boring now that Mitsuki can't peek at them from the windows of another building like last year. They'd exchange silent hopes for a good year ahead, and a few light nods say more than words could. Their new homeroom teacher, Tobaru, introduces herself. She appears strict and composed, announcing that it's her first time taking charge of a homeroom class. Determined to maintain discipline and order, she tries to keep a professional face. However, there's already an issue: Matsuboshi and Rina. Their subtle gestures, too soft for others to pick up on but too sweet for her overactive imagination, threaten her resolve. She's had nosebleeds just from watching them interact. There's even a rumor that they're dating. She prepares herself mentally, knowing she might have to endure far more than she expects this year. While Tobaru discusses the semester schedule, Rina asks Matsuboshi if she can switch seats. The student in front of her has a large frame, and it's hard for her to see the board. Matsuboshi, remembering what they used to do, casually lifts her up and lets her sit on his shoulders while balancing her desk on his head. Tobaru, sensing something unusual mid-discussion, turns around. But by the time she does, both students are back in their original seats. As it turns out, the student in front of Rina notices the situation and offers to switch seats, allowing her a better view of the board. After the first class, they're required to move runes for the next subject. Rina is fast asleep in her chair. Matsuboshi tries to wake her, but she doesn't budge. With time running out, he carries her on his back and walks to the next classroom. Though it surprises him that she's already this tired on the first day, it reminds him of animals in hibernation. Her slow, quiet movements and drowsiness make him imagine that maybe she's storing up energy for a season of growth. If she's entering a new phase of development, then maybe he needs to grow too. In the classroom, Rina eventually wakes. Matsuboshi wants to share his thoughts, but Rina simply thanks him for carrying her earlier. At lunchtime, the two sit together on a bench near the classroom. Tobaru and a fellow teacher walk by, taking notice. Tobaru, doing her best to act indifferent, joins her colleague and sitting across from them at a vacant spot. Rina opens her lunchbox and tells Matsuboshi she made meatballs, the kind he likes. He thinks back to her exhaustion that morning and suspects she must have stayed up preparing them. Rina expresses worry that she made too many, but Matsuboshi reassures her. He insists it's fine as she makes delicious meatballs, and he's happy to eat everything because she went through the trouble of making it for him. Tobaru watches this scene with tension rising in her chest. She tries to focus on her own lunch. When her colleague lifts her food, a crow swoops in and snatches it from her hand. They decide it's safer to eat indoors and walk away, leaving the two students alone again. Now alone, Rina begins feeding Matsuboshi the meatballs herself. One after another, she pushes them into his mouth until he's overwhelmed, struggling to chew and swallow. Still, he endures it, cheeks full. Later in the afternoon, homeroom resumes. The weather has shifted. Rina, sensitive to the cold, begins to shiver slightly in her seat. Tobaru watches from the front of the room, feeling confident for once. She's managed to get through most of the day without a nosebleed despite several close calls. But when she glances at them again, that fragile illusion shatters. Rina now sits in Matsuboshi's lap. To Tobaru, it doesn't look like a classroom anymore. It resembles a snow-covered cabin where two lovers cling to each other for warmth. She tries to stay composed to say her closing remarks for the day, but her vision darkens. Before she can properly dismiss the class, blood begins to stream from her mouth. Final groan, she collapses forward onto her desk, defeated. The next day, Matsuboshi and Rina walk to school together. Ishikawa and Hanako catch up to them as they all make their way to class. They break some news: there will be a transfer student joining them today. When Tobaru arrives in class, she welcomes the new transfer student. She has a red ribbon in her hair, and her slightly open shirt exposes a part of her belly. She greets everyone cheerfully and introduces herself as Riku. Since there is a vacant seat in front of Rina, Tobaru tells her to sit there. Her unusual look and demeanor leave everyone astonished. Students like her are rare at the school. Once seated, Riku turns around to greet Rina, who is behind her. As usual, Rina instantly leans forward, her face extremely close to Riku's. Matsuboshi watches with concern, thinking it's too much of a baptism for a transfer student. Matsuboshi assumes Rina is being too aggressive, but to his surprise, she's only introducing herself. Riku instantly adores Rina. Caught off guard by her cuteness, she embraces her tightly. Reina turns red, visibly flustered. Riku becomes so taken with her that she starts treating her like a baby, smitten by her presence. Meanwhile, Tobaru, doing her best not to pass out, watches the scene unfold. After class, the day winds down and students prepare to head home. Matsuboshi turns to Reina, but she's preoccupied with Riku, who excitedly invites her to hang out. Reina agrees, and although she wants to ask if Matsuboshi can come with them, Riku doesn't hear her. Overexcited, Riku grabs Reina's bag and drags her toward the door. His imagination runs wild, Riku challenging Reina to a power struggle and trying to assert herself in the social hierarchy. Matsuboshi panics, feeling like he must rescue her, and rushes after them. In reality, Reina and Riku are just in a cafe, sipping drinks and having fun. Matsuboshi trails behind them and spots them through the window. Riku is busy taking photos of their drinks while Reina stays motionless. From outside, Matsuboshi watches the peaceful scene. But in his mind, he's convinced something tense is happening. Even though Reina and Riku are just enjoying their time together, Matsuboshi imagines the standoff like something out of a Western film, with both silently fighting for their place. Suddenly, Riku wants to go somewhere else. This makes Matsuboshi panic even more. The fact that she wants to leave with Reina makes him think that she might bring her to a place where fellow punks are waiting, picturing Reina being beaten up. In reality, though, they are simply going to a nearby photo booth to take cute pictures together. Before she can say anything, Riku glances outside and mentions how it's getting late. They decide to head home. Riku leaves first. When she's out of sight, Matsuboshi approaches Reina and asks if everything's okay. Reina says she is, but her face shows some hesitation. What scares her is the thought of her friendship with Riku ending up like the one she lost back in elementary school. He assures her that it's not going to be like that again. That night, in her room, Riku rolls over her bed, scolding herself for acting too cheerful earlier. It almost felt weird. But the truth is, all she ever wanted was to be friends with Reina again. She opens an old yearbook from elementary school and flips to a class photo. There, captured in the frame, are both her and Reina. She had known Reina all along. The next morning in class, Reina greets Riku, and Riku smiles, thanking her for the previous day. Despite the brief exchange, Reina spaces out a lot during the day. Her thoughts return to her elementary school friend, the one she got close to too quickly and eventually lost. She starts worrying that the same thing is happening again. Riku doesn't seem as lively as she was before, and the contrast is hard to ignore. Matsuboshi notices her uneasiness and quietly figures out the reason. He comforts her, saying he does not mind Reina being too close and personal with him at all. Sometimes people just have the wrong idea, so it's better to talk to her. At the end of the day, as Riku prepares to leave, Reina grabs her hand and pulls her aside. She tells Riku that since Riku took her out yesterday, today it's her turn to lead. Riku is surprised but pleased by the idea, though she tries to keep her cool. They spend the rest of the afternoon together, going to places Reina picks. They play games, eat snacks, and enjoy other things. Eventually, Riku is so full she can barely move, and they sit down to rest. It's then that Reina opens up about her past. She tells Riku about a friend she had in middle school, someone she became too close with too soon. That friend suddenly left her behind, and ever since then, she's been scared of forming close friendships. She apologizes if she did anything wrong the other day, but to her surprise, Riku interrupts. She says she should be the one apologizing. Then she tells Reina something she's been keeping to herself. They had already met once before. Back in elementary school during their first day, Riku and Reina sat beside each other. At first, Riku misjudged Reina because of her quiet voice, but when Riku realized she had forgotten her notebook, Reina came closer and shared hers without hesitation. That simple gesture broke the wall between them. From then on, they did almost everything together, eating lunch, walking home, and spending every break side by side. Eventually, Riku began to feel guilty. She feared that dragging Reina around too much might be exhausting her. Instead of asking how Reina felt, she made the decision on her own to step away. She started avoiding Reina. What she didn't know was that her absence confused and hurt Reina deeply. As Riku tells her story, tears start falling down her face. But before she can apologize again, Reina responds. She tells Riku she had fun yesterday, and even back then too. Hearing that, Riku cries even harder. She finally says sorry for everything. Reina comforts her. She's just glad that everything is a simple misunderstanding after all. The next day, Riku can't stop recalling how fun yesterday was. She even considers asking Reina to go out with her again, but her cheerful mood is instantly disrupted when Mitsuki suddenly approaches her. Riku's face shifts from happy to horrified. Though Mitsuki greets her kindly, Riku doesn't recognize her at all. When Mitsuki suggests they go have drinks and catch up, Riku agrees out of courtesy. As they walk, Riku tries to recall who Mitsuki is. She changes schools so often that it's hard to keep track of past classmates. They arrive at a hamburger place where customers are asked to write their names in a logbook. Riku feels this could be her chance to finally know who Mitsuki is. However, Mitsuki writes Takeshi instead. She explains it's become a habit not to write her real name due to anxiety. Riku's hope of solving the mystery fades again. As they wait for their food, Riku keeps thinking about her name. Then Mitsuki suddenly leans in and asks if something is bothering her. Riku is taken aback, thinking Mitsuki might be interested in her romantically. She grows tense as Mitsuki inches even closer. But before she can react, Mitsuki quickly swats at something near her. A bee had been about to sting Riku, and Mitsuki acted just in time. The shock overwhelms Riku. She unexpectedly starts crying, which alarms Mitsuki. But Riku admits the tears are out of frustration. She still can't remember her name. Mitsuki finally reintroduces herself, revealing they were classmates in 6th grade, along with Reina. Riku apologizes for not recognizing her sooner. Mitsuki understands, especially since they never really talked ever since then. Still, even with the name, Riku can't recall her clearly. Back home, Riku opens her old yearbook. Scanning the pages, she finally finds Mitsuki's photo, and only then does her memory come back. The next day at school, Matsuboshi and Reina are having lunch together when Ishikawa and Hanako join them. Shortly after, Mitsuki and Riku arrive. Upon noticing Matsuboshi sitting beside Reina, Riku becomes uneasy. Acting on impulse, she pulls Reina away and scolds Matsuboshi, demanding to know who he is and warns him the two of them have been friends since elementary. When Matsuboshi calmly says that he and Reina are dating and Reina confirms it, Riku is stunned with embarrassment. Matsuboshi attempts to formally introduce himself, but Riku runs away in shame. The group wonders what's wrong, but Riku simply can't handle the fact that she mistook Reina's boyfriend for just another classmate, and that she even bragged about being close to Reina. Matsuboshi lies lazily on the sofa, holding a bag of chips and watching the TV show without much interest. His eyes land on a video game case lying on the center table. The title reads Granny Crossing. His sister, seeing this, tells him that she is preparing for an upcoming exam, so he can try the game since she won't be able to play it for a while. With nothing better to do, Matsuboshi picks it up and decides to give it a shot. The game is a town simulator where players build their own villages filled with animal residents. Intrigued by the idea, Matsuboshi creates a character that looks exactly like himself. From the moment he starts, he becomes fully immersed. In the game, he meets Tom, a cheerful and successful animal character who lives in a beautiful house that is at least 10 times bigger than Matsuboshi's small starter tent. Matsuboshi feels motivated and curious, and Tom offers advice. He tells Matsuboshi to gather sticks, fruits, vegetables, and any useful items. He can sell these to him, and he will give him money in return to upgrade his home. At first, the game seems simple, but it quickly becomes clear that each task comes with obstacles. Bees swarm out of trees when Matsuboshi shakes them for fruits. Still, he does his best, gathering everything he can find. At the end of the day, he brings the items to Tom, who is impressed by his dedication. Tom pays him 100 pels for each item, explaining that it's all he can afford because of the game's poor economy. Rather than being discouraged, Matsuboshi becomes more determined. He works harder, fishing whenever he can, catching rare insects such as butterflies, building furniture, and even constructing a handmade wooden table to sell. Once again, Tom is happy for this, and his efforts pay off when Tom buys all the items for 5,000 pels. Eventually, Matsuboshi starts a small garden in the game and grows his own cabbages. When harvest time comes, he brings his crops to Tom. Before handing them over, he sees Tom in the marketplace claiming the cabbages as his own, telling customers they are organic and grown by him. Matsuboshi watches silently as Tom sells the cabbages for 2,000 pels each, 20 times more than what Matsuboshi gets. Still, when Matsuboshi approaches to sell more, he mentions how high of a price Tom sells his cabbage, so Tom offers him some extra pels as a bonus. Matsuboshi earns over 30 million pels, enough to buy the house of his dreams. His in-game home becomes cozy and spacious, filled with custom furniture and decorations. It feels like a real accomplishment, and he enjoys the comfort of what he built through effort. At lunch the next day, Matsuboshi shares his in-game experiences with Reina. She tells him she used to play Granny Crossing too and invites him to visit her town someday. Before doing that though, Matsuboshi focuses on finishing his own town. He works day and night in the game, farming vegetables, crafting furniture, and trading with his neighbors. Eventually, his town becomes one developed town in the game. With so much wealth, he hosts a fancy birthday party for Tom. They go to a virtual bar, enjoy music, and are entertained by girls. Tom ends up falling in love with one of the girls at the bar. As they spend time together, he begins to dream about a future with her, traveling, getting married, and even starting a family. That evening, Tom and Matsuboshi also have dinner on a yacht, watching the view and talking about how far they've come. Everything seems perfect until Tom notices a gunman hiding in the shadows. The shooter aims at Matsuboshi. Without thinking, Tom jumps in front of the bullet to save him, and he dies in Matsuboshi's arms. The loss affects Matsuboshi deeply. His avatar changes, his once bright clothes turn dark, and his hair grows long and unkempt. He buries Tom in the virtual town, building a small cemetery with Tom's statue. and he visits the grave often, remembering his friend. Eventually, he remembers Reina's invitation. He decides to visit her town to distract himself. When he arrives, he is shocked. Reina's town doesn't look like a normal game environment. It is incredibly detailed, with realistic lighting, lifelike establishments, and even bigger and larger roads and buildings. Everything feels like real life. The town is so advanced that Matsuboshi begins to wonder how much time Reina spent building it. His curiosity turns into suspicion. He starts to believe Reina is trying to recreate Earth within the game. The structures, routines, and people in her town are too real. He even starts to imagine that Reina might want to leave the real world entirely and live in the virtual one. As his thoughts spiral, Matsuboshi recalls a theory about virtual worlds. If a simulation has enough data and detail, it could become indistinguishable from reality. With the help of a quantum computer, such a simulation could potentially become real. The more he thinks about it, the more anxious he becomes. He thinks about how virtual reality and actual reality can clash and switch places. Faced with this possibility, Matsuboshi makes a decision. You must pull Reina away from the game before the line between their world and the simulation disappears forever. Matsuboshi arrives at school the next day and is immediately concerned when he sees Reina's seat empty. His imagination starts running wild. He wonders if Reina has fully uploaded herself into the virtual world. In his head, he prepares to accept the possibility that she no longer exists in reality. As his thoughts spiral, he strikes a strange, dramatic pose, silently declaring that he will soon follow her into the game. At that exact moment, the classroom door opens. Reina walks in and catches Matsuboshi mid-pose. He immediately tells her how amazing her town is in the game. Reina explains that she shares the game file with her brother Ren, who is really into it. That's why the town looks so developed. Still suspicious, Matsuboshi asks if Ren still exists in the real world. Reina doesn't understand what he means and simply stares at him in confusion. The next morning, Matsuboshi is getting ready for school. His mother is in the kitchen preparing food. Feeling thirsty, he grabs what he thinks is a glass of milk from the table and drinks it in one go. But as soon as he finishes, he realizes the taste is off. It's not milk. It's amazake, a traditional sweet Japanese rice liquor that his mother poured for herself. He stares at the box of amazake and begins to panic. He remembers reading about the Japanese Liquor Act, which says anything with at least 1% alcohol is considered liquor. He convinces himself that he is now officially drunk. He thinks about the typical effects of alcohol: inflated ego, extreme friendliness, and all sorts of behavioral changes. Feeling as though these things are already happening to him, he decides it's time to head to school. On the way, he runs into Reina on the road. He greets her in a loud and dramatic tone, his voice noticeably different. He even threatens to leave Reina behind if she doesn't catch up quickly, then suddenly grabs her face to speak more seriously. As they walk together, Matsuboshi notices how heavy Reina's school bag looks. Without hesitation, he picks up both Reina and her bag, carrying her as if she were weightless. Reina squirms in discomfort, her legs flailing, but Matsuboshi tells her to stop moving or she'll fall. Later in class, their teacher Tobaru asks everyone to open their textbooks. Reina has forgotten hers again, so Matsuboshi drags his desk right next to hers, sharing his book while sitting unusually close. Tobaru, noticing Matsuboshi's intense behavior, becomes visibly uncomfortable. Once again, overwhelmed by the stress, she spits blood and collapses at the podium. For the next period, the class has to change rooms. Riku spots Reina in the hallway and calls out to her, but Matsuboshi immediately invites Reina to walk with him instead. Reina agrees, and Riku is left standing alone. Even Mitsuki, who is hiding behind a wall, senses how strange Matsuboshi is behaving. Despite her effort to stay hidden, Matsuboshi finds her. She trembles as he approaches, but instead of doing anything odd, he simply points out a burdock root stuck in her hair. He plucks it out, puts it in his mouth like a toothpick, and then walks away, telling her to get herself together. Throughout the rest of the day, Matsuboshi continues to act unusually aggressive but extremely helpful. He lets classmates borrow his notes, feeds Reina during lunch, lends his coat when someone gets cold, protects Reina from a stray baseball, and even helps carry the teacher's things. Despite his strange and intense behavior, his classmates thank him for all this help. Still, Riku, watching him from the doorway, can't shake off the feeling that Matsuboshi is scary today. As class ends, Ren and Iru walk home together, chatting about random things from school. Suddenly, they hear someone call out to them. Ren immediately lights up at the sight of him and rushes over without hesitation, jumping on his back like everything is normal. Iru, on the other hand, notices something strange about Matsuboshi's behavior. His attitude feels different, unnerving even. What catches Iru even more off guard is when Matsuboshi turns to her and, out of nowhere, thanks her for taking care of Reina. His tone is so intense it creeps Eru out so much that she immediately pulls Ren off his back and hurries him inside their house without another word. Left alone with Rina, Matsuboshi turns to her and comments on how red her face looks today. Concerned, he leans in close to check if she has a fever. His face gets so close to hers that Rina flinches. Even though she feels fine, his closeness makes her flustered. To make things worse, her nose suddenly starts bleeding, so they sit on a bench nearby for her to clean up. While Matsuboshi presses a handkerchief to her nose, he calmly explains how nosebleeds can happen. Though Rina is physically fine, she suddenly bolts from the bench and runs straight home, wanting to get as far from Matsuboshi as possible. Back at home, Matsuboshi greets his younger sister, who's lying on the couch reading something. She immediately notices something off about him. He's acting even stranger than usual. He opens the fridge, grabs his snack, and without hesitation tries to feed her with it. Confused, she stops him, saying it's her food, but Matsuboshi insists as if he's doing her a favor. When his sister gets up to grab a drink, she spots a box of Amazeki in the fridge. Matsuboshi tries to stop her from drinking it, but she reassures him. It's the non-alcoholic kind. It won't do anything. Matsuboshi is shocked. All this time, he really wasn't drunk. The next day, Matsuboshi's younger sister is at school. One of her classmates begs her to take over her cleaning duty in exchange for ice cream, and she agrees. When she gets to the cleaning area, she finds another student already there, Eru. Something about her seems familiar. She looks just like the girl often seen with her brother, Reina. The resemblance is so strong, she briefly wonders if Eru might be Reina's doppelganger, but she quickly shakes off the thought. It's too strange. Just then, someone calls out to her using her last name. Eru hears it and immediately realizes that this girl must be Matsuboshi's younger sister. Matsuboshi's sister immediately jumps to wild conclusions, assuming this girl might try to rope her in a pyramid or something. But Eru only wants to ask a simple question, if Matsuboshi is really her brother. When she confirms it, Eru bows and says he's been a big help to her sister Reina. Eru then introduces herself, and Matsuboshi's sister remembers the cute girl always hanging around with her brother. True enough, Eru pauses before admitting how truly cute her sister is. She goes on praising Reina for being a caring sister and even a good cook. Matsuboshi's sister starts to get the feeling that Eru really loves her sister. As they clean together, Eru also talks about Matsuboshi as a good man. But his sister, in contrast, calls him confusing, though she admits he's occasionally considerate. They spend the rest of the time chatting mostly about Reina and Matsuboshi. Eventually, Eru learns that the siblings don't get along very well. Still, Eru encourages her to keep trying, they're family after all. Matsuboshi's sister nods and agrees to give it a shot. When Matsuboshi gets home later, he finds his sister lying on the couch. She greets him and asks about Reina. Matsuboshi is overjoyed, interpreting her question as a sign she's interested in his life. His reaction is so exaggerated that his sister immediately regrets asking and swears never to do it again. Matsuboshi and Reina walk to school together, passing by a student athlete already training. The scene reminds them that the athletic festival is coming up soon. As they walk further, they notice an elderly man by the side of the road, struggling to lift his surfboard onto the roof of his car. Without hesitation, Matsuboshi steps forward. He squats down, grabs the surfboard, and with effort, pushes it up and over the car's roof. Satisfied, he gives a final glimpse at the car, leaving before turning to rejoin Reina. As they resume their walk, Reina spots something odd. There's a tear in the back of Matsuboshi's pants. His undergarments, brightly printed with a kitten pattern, peek out. She's too shocked to say anything. The tear is obvious, but pointing it out would embarrass him. Then, as two girls walk past them, she acts quickly and closes the space between them, positioning herself directly behind Matsuboshi. Matsuboshi notices her closeness and misreads it entirely. He assumes Reina must be impressed by his earlier action, helping the old man. In his mind, she's drawn to his kindness and maybe even admires his build. Encouraged by the thought, he tells himself he needs to do more heroic acts to maintain her admiration. When they arrive at school, they see several students struggling with a large piece of equipment. Matsuboshi immediately offers help, seeing it as another chance to look impressive. Reina follows just behind him, carefully keeping the tear out of sight from others. As the day continues, Matsuboshi throws himself into every challenge and club demonstration. He joins the 100-person leapfrog attempt, then tries the standing splits challenge. He signs up for a yoga session, contorts himself in the look through your legs challenge, raises his leg at the sumo club demo, and even takes part in the butt battle challenge. With every movement, Reina stays close, mimicking his every action with growing fatigue, determined to cover up his torn clothing. By the time lunch break arrives, Reina is already shaking. Her muscles ache from the strain of staying active all morning. When they reach the rooftop and find themselves alone, she finally sees an opportunity to fix the problem. She tries to approach Matsuboshi to help him, but he gets flustered and runs, assuming she's after him for a strange reason. To him, it seems like she's trying to grab him, maybe even spank him, and he panics. Reina doesn't stop. She chases him across the rooftop until she finally catches up. Matsuboshi braces himself for what he thinks is punishment, but Reina pulls out a thread and needle. With practice, speed mends the tear in one quick stroke. The pants are fixed good as new. But as Matsuboshi turns to thank her, the crotch of his pants suddenly splits open. Reina collapses onto a bench, drained and defeated. The next day, training officially begins for the athletic festival. Each class prepares for the events. During the trials, Riku runs with all her strength, aiming to become the anchor for the interclass relay. But Ishikawa narrowly beats her and secures the anchor spot. Riku still receives praise for her effort. Watching the event, Matsuboshi notices Reina trembling. He assumes she's upset over losing the anchor position. But in truth, Reina is scared. She fears she'll drag her class down because of her slow pace. Matsuboshi, along with their friends, reassures her. They all run fast, so even if she slows down, they still have a shot at winning. Later during stretching, Reina admits she wants to improve. Even if her friends say it's fine, she doesn't want to be a burden, so Matsuboshi steps in as her coach. They start with bait and passing, practicing the overhand and underhand techniques. He teaches her the right hand position and how to match her pace with the next runner. They involve other relay team members in practice, making sure Reina gets used to real conditions. Next, they focus on her running form. Being small, Reina takes short strides. Matsuboshi helps correct her posture, back straight, arms at 90 degrees, and feet moving with toes lifted to keep momentum. For the next few days, they train from early morning until sunset. Reina's lap times improve steadily. Eventually, her progress makes her satisfied. One afternoon, she walks up to Matsuboshi and hugs him tightly. The hug is so firm that he struggles to breathe. Reina's joy is clear. She's having fun running for the first time, all because of Matsuboshi. However, their moment is interrupted when a classmate runs over with urgent news. Ishikawa has been hospitalized due to an injury during club activities. His leg is bandaged, and although the injury isn't serious, the doctor advises a week of rest. The festival is within that week, which means Ishikawa can't participate. The team meets to talk. Losing their anchor is a big setback. Reina, still unsure of herself, volunteers to give up her spot for someone faster. She believes she's the weakest link and wants the team to have the best chance at winning. But Matsuboshi refuses to let her step down. He reminds her that even if they lose, no one will blame her. Then the rest of their classmates appear and tell her the same thing. They all stand behind her, saying they're in it together. Reina tears up upon hearing this, the pressure lifting. Still, there's one last issue. Someone needs to fill the anchor position, so Ishikawa himself asks Matsuboshi to take the responsibility. The day of the athletic festival arrives, and students gather on the field, lined up for their events. Reina and Matsuboshi participate in each of their matches, spending the day moving between competitions and cheering for classmates. During the lunch break, they sit side by side on the field, feeding each other bites of their packed meals. Their classmates glance over, amused and charmed by the sight. As the afternoon rolls in, the interclass relay approaches. The tension builds as each class prepares. The sound of the starting gun echoes through the air, signifying the start of the race, and the first runners sprint forward. Reina and her friends sit by the sidelines, cheering while Ishikawa watches nearby. Seeing the race, you can't help but think back to the conversation they had at the hospital days before. Matsuboshi had taken over the anchor role. Because of the changes made, they need to rearrange the order of the runners to create a more strategic plan, and thinking back to how Reina struggles to keep up with the team, Matsuboshi proposes a plan. Back in the race, Riku receives the baton and charges forward. She overtakes 3 students in a row, pushing her class into 3rd place. She nears the runner in 2nd place but has no time to overtake before reaching the next runner, which is Reina. Reina grabs the baton in an underhand pass, smooth and clean as practice. Observers notice the consistency in their baton exchanges. It's clear they've trained together. Reina pushes herself forward, breathing heavily and legs moving with effort. She remembers her training, Matsuboshi's advice, the countless laps they've done together. Her form stays steady, and though she doesn't overtake anyone, she also doesn't lose ground. When she reaches the next runner and passes the baton, she slows down and slumps her head against Matsuboshi's shoulder. She's exhausted but satisfied. The next runners take off, and Mitsuki sprints with fierce determination, slowly closing the gap between her and the second runner. With her final push, she passes them, bringing their class to 2nd place, while the leading class remains far ahead as their anchor is known to be fast, almost unbeatable. Now comes the final handoff. Matsuboshi grabs the baton. He's in 2nd place, and the gap between them is wide. He takes a deep breath and runs. As he fixes his eyes on the anchor ahead, every muscle in his body moves with intent. He remembers everyone who supported him, his friends, Ishikawa, and most of all, Reina. With every stride, he gains distance. The finish line is close, but so is his opponent. For a moment, it seems like he might not make it, but in one final surge of energy, Matsuboshi leans forward, crossing the line just before the other anchor. The crowd falls silent, stunned, then cheers erupt. Reina runs up first, wrapping her arms around him, followed by their classmates who gather in celebration. Their class advisor, Thobaru, sits on one side as she is handed the championship token. She hesitates to approach. The memory of strange encounters involving Reina and Matsuboshi makes her cautious, but her colleague drags her toward the group, leaving her no time to retreat. As expected, she arrives just in time to see Matsuboshi and Reina hugging each other tightly in the middle of the crowd. A nosebleed follows immediately, and she faints on the spot. As the crowd disperses, Ishikawa stands by himself at the edge of the field. Mitsuki walks over and talks to him. He smiles slightly, praising Matsuboshi's win, though his voice carries a tone of regret. He admits feeling frustrated, injured when it mattered most, and left watching from the sidelines. He had trained harder than anyone, even continuing after hours, hoping to make a difference. To him, it feels like all of that effort led to nothing. Mitsuki quietly listens, then reminds him of how much his presence meant to everyone. She tells him how determined he looked, how inspiring it was to see him push himself. Ishikawa doesn't respond right away, but her words soften his expression, so he tells her he appreciates it. While the class celebrates their hard-earned victory, Riku stands off to the side, not quite part of the moment. She still doesn't feel like she belongs. Despite everything she's done, the distance between her and the rest of the class remains. When she hears Ishikawa has been hospitalized, she wanted to visit him. But the thought of showing up uninvited, while classmates whispering, wondering why she's there, freezes her in place. She tells herself it's better not to go. Now that decision weighs on her. She wonders again if she'll ever fit in, if she will even find her place in class. But she forces the thoughts away and steels herself, determined to try again. Then a voice calls out behind her. She turns and sees Ishikawa. He talks to her about the race earlier, but when she recognizes who he is, she freezes in place. The idea that he might call her out for not visiting him sends her thoughts spinning. She imagines others mocking her, whispering behind her back. Tears spill before she can stop them, and she instantly apologizes for not being able to visit him in the hospital. But Ishikawa simply smiles, says nothing about the hospital, and instead points back to the race. He brings up her performance, how she passed 3 runners. Somehow, his words lift the weight from her shoulders. Days pass by, and soon enough the last stretch of their school break arrives. Riku feels herself slipping into laziness, so she forces herself out of the house, determined not to waste the day. She walks through the city when she spots someone who looks familiar. She rushes forward thinking it's Reina, but up close the person does not recognize her at all. Only then does she realize she got the wrong person. Before the awkwardness can settle, Ren recognizes her. He introduces himself, explaining that he's Reina's younger brother. Riku relaxes and they sit together on a nearby bench, sharing a fish-shaped pastry. The conversation flows easily, surprisingly natural for 2 strangers. Ren seems happy to have met her, and Riku finds herself smiling too. In her mind, getting close to Reina's brother is a way of securing their friendship. Wanting to know him better, she asks if there's anything troubling him. She expects nothing serious, he's just a grade schooler. But he tells her about a new student in his class who struggles to fit in. Ren had invited the boy to play football, but he doesn't know if he did the right thing. His problem surprises Riku so much that she finds it hard to answer. Riku admits she doesn't have real friends either. She mentions her fear of messing things up, of saying or doing the wrong thing. The words pour out before she realizes how serious her confession sounds. She realizes how much she's revealing to a child. But Ren surprises her. He gives her a valuable insight about friendship, and with this, she finds herself admiring him. Then a voice calls Ren's name. They both look up to see Reina. She walks over and asks what's going on. Ren explains that Riku is giving him advice. Reina thanks her, then after a pause, says she needs advice too. Riku freezes and her mind jumps to one conclusion. It must be about romantic relationships. She panics. She's never been in a relationship her whole life, so the thought of offering advice on something she knows nothing about terrifies her. Reina starts to speak again. Although she is talking about her hair, Riku is too preoccupied by her thoughts that she instantly bolts out without letting Reina finish her sentence. Reina and Ren are both confused by her strange actions, but despite that, Ren still hugs Reina and tells her how happy he is to have met Riku. On the morning of their class, Riku sits quietly in her seat when Reina and Hanako approach her. Reina notices the loose socks Riku is wearing and compliments her look, admitting that she's always wanted to try out Yao fashion. Smiling, Riku reaches into her backpack and pulls out a spare pair for Reina to try on. Reina slips them on, and her new look immediately draws attention. Classmates praise her for being adorable. Even Mitsuki notices and offers to style her hair to better match the aesthetic. When Matsuboshi walks into class, he stops in his tracks upon seeing Reina in a full gal look, quite different from her usual modest appearance. His mind begins to spiral as he tries to come up with a logical reason behind her sudden transformation. After some internal digging, he lands on the idea that Reina is embracing change for her self-growth. Convinced that this is her way of exploring a new side of herself, Matsuboshi decides he must be supportive. In his head, he vows to encourage her as part of her journey. During class, Matsuboshi realizes he forgot his printout for the lesson. Reina notices and offers hers so he can follow along. As he responds, his words come out in an exaggeratedly cheerful gal tone. Immediately, he freezes. A sudden panic overtakes him. He begins to believe that Riena's gal energy is overwhelming his own, slowly replacing his identity. To regain composure, he rushes out of the classroom and heads straight to the restroom to wash his face in hopes of returning to normal. When he comes back, the situation worsens. Not only has his speech fully morphed into gal style, but he now wears gal fashion. When Rina mentions she feels tired, he instinctively hands her a jar of vitamin B1, acting entirely within character as a gal. Meanwhile, Tubaru approaches the classroom with cautious optimism. She reminds herself that frequent exposure to Reina and Matsuboshi's closeness has helped her develop a level of emotional resilience. However, the moment she opens the door, her composure collapses. Matsuboshi, fully immersed in gal fashion and mannerisms, now matches Reina's style perfectly. The shock overwhelms Tubaru. She can feel the rising level of tension, and then a sudden nosebleed leaves her with no choice. She turns on her heel and flees, leaving the class unsupervised while screaming that they should study on their own in the meantime. After class ends, Matsuboshi comes up with an idea to invite Reina to town for a fun day together. They spend the afternoon doing a variety of activities, helping children organize a donation drive, picking up trash around the area, and later studying side by side at the library. The next morning, both walk to school separately but meet along the way. Reina, now back to her modest and usual style, walks beside Matsuboshi, who still sports his full gal outfit. Matsuboshi is taken aback by the change, but Reina casually explains that the gal style was just for one day, a playful makeover from her friends. Realizing the shift, Matsuboshi decides there's no need to continue the act. With a quick change, he's back in his original appearance, relieved to return to his own rhythm. That afternoon after class, Reina tells Matsuboshi she wants to go to the arcade, and he agrees without question. Since she rarely invites him anywhere, he quietly wonders why she's so eager this time. Once there, Reina heads straight to a game called Primitive Planet, a dress-up and character-building game targeted mostly at young girls. Though its popularity has waned due to newer mobile games and trending anime series, it still holds a dedicated fan base, and Reina is clearly one of them. While she plays, Matsuboshi waits patiently at the back. After finishing her turn, she turns to Matsuboshi, apologizing for how long it took her. With this, Reina also encourages Matsuboshi to try it too, handing him a small collection of character cards she earned. At first, he hesitates, unsure of what to do with them. But with Reina nudging him persistently and watching with anticipation, he eventually gives in and steps up to the game. Matsuboshi gives the game a try, unfamiliar but curious. He starts by creating a character and models it after himself. Short black hair, plain features, and names it Rai. Using the outfit card Reina gave him, he dresses Rai in an adorable ensemble that surprises even him with how cute it looks. As the game transitions to a rhythm segment, Rai begins dancing on screen upbeat music, prompting both Matsuboshi and Reina to watch with amusement and focus. By the end of the round, they rack up 1,500 points. A new card drops from the machine, Matsuboshi's very first prize, an outfit he can use for Rai. With that small win, he finds himself unexpectedly drawn in by the game's charm. As they wrap up, Futaba appears nearby. Reina casually brings up the game, but Futaba brushes it off, acting uninterested. However, when some friends spot Reina and Matsuboshi playing and decide to try it themselves, admiration begins to swirl around Reina. Jealous of the attention Reina receives and curious to spike herself, Futaba lingers. The growing interest from others nudges her pride, and slowly she starts considering giving the game a shot too. Later that night, Matsuboshi sits alone in his dimly lit room, hunched over at his desk. He seems to be busy with something, scribbling and writing with focus. The next day, they return to the arcade, eager to play the game again. This time, Matsuboshi comes fully prepared, carrying a notebook packed with carefully planned outfits for Rai. He selects each piece with precision, and as Ri appears on screen dressed according to his designs, Matsuboshi beams with pride. His vision is becoming reality. He's been studying the game relentlessly, poring over the game's magazines, watching related series, and even streaming live shows just to improve his game performance. He becomes so drawn to the game that even his funds start running low because of it. But when they arrive at the arcade the following day, something is wrong. The game cabinet is missing. A janitress informs them that the machine was removed yesterday due to the game being out of service. Matsuboshi freezes, his face drained of color. The game, which had become a daily joy and escape, is gone. The sudden loss hits him hard. His connection to Rai, the character he had nurtured and styled with such care, is abruptly severed. He stands silently in front of the empty space, processing the reality that he may never see her again. The next day, Matsuboshi looks unusually down in class, his energy nowhere to be found. Seeing this, Reina invites him to the arcade again. At first, Matsuboshi refuses, afraid that going back would only make him feel worse. But Reina insists and eventually drags him along to the arcade. When they arrive, they find a brand new machine installed, Pregachi, the updated version of Primitive Planet. While the game sparks some curiosity in Matsuboshi, he holds himself back, afraid that getting attached again will only leave him heartbroken. In the following days, Matsuboshi finds himself thinking about Rai more often. Her image stays in his mind and it begins to weigh heavily on him. Reina, perceptive as ever, notices the shift in his mood and asks if he's alright as they walk home together. Seeing her concern, Matsuboshi decides it's time to move forward. Above all, he does not want Reina to worry about him. So he decides to give Pregachi a try so he can finally recover from the pain that Prikla left. They head straight to the arcade and begin playing Pregachi. Matsuboshi creates a new character who closely resembles Rai and he names it Ito. As the game loads, he immediately notices the improved graphics and smoother animation, making the experience feel more immersive and enjoyable than before. Just like before, Reina hands him a card she picked out and Matsuboshi uses it to dress Ito in his stylish outfit. Together, they play the game with great dedication like before. Soon, a group of kids gathers around Reina, eagerly trading outfit cards, and Matsuboshi realizes how beloved the game truly is. While he enjoys Pregachi, he knows he'll never forget Rai. Still, just like before, he becomes quickly attached. He installs the mobile app version, begins watching the anime series, buys character figures, and collects every magazine issue related to the game. Together, he and Reina religiously devote their time and energy to the world of Pregachi. They seem to enjoy Pregachi more than Pripla, but when they return to the arcade for another game day, they are stunned to find Pripla back in service. Matsuboshi freezes as memories of Rai come flooding back. Just as he reaches to play, he imagines Ito tugging at his arm, urging him not to look back, while Rai pulls his other hand, silently pleading for him to stay. Torn between the two, Matsuboshi trembles in distress, unable to choose. In the end, he decides that he will not let go of any of them. However, his wallet tells him otherwise. It has no coins left at all. Left with no choice, Matsuboshi says goodbye to both Rai and Ito, walking home in silence, tears falling as the weight of farewell sinks in. The next day, Matsuboshi notices how Reina is absorbed in her notes even during break time. Curiously, he looks over her shoulder and sees that she's writing song lyrics, which makes him wonder if Reina wants to be an idol. His mind quickly drifts to thoughts of Rai and Ito, and for a moment, he considers supporting Reina's dreams. But then he recalls how his tendency to get ahead of himself often leads to misunderstandings. So this time, he decides to stay calm and not jump to conclusions. As time passes, Reina's interests shift again, and he sees her sewing clothes. Matsuboshi's mind races. Maybe she's making her own idol costume, as newbies often do. He fights the urge to assume anything too quickly, reminding himself to observe before making any rash judgments. Although his classmates mention a music assignment, Matsuboshi still fixates on Reina playing the flute. He convinces himself she's aiming to become a singer-songwriter, writing her own lyrics and composing with instruments. The real issue is that Matsuboshi sees idols in everything, and every little detail about Reina seems to fuel that idea. During lunch, he struggles to keep his thoughts to himself, resisting the urge to talk about his idol theory. But even as he eats, his mind drifts to the thought of Reina being a famous idol in the future. No matter how hard he tries, he can't stop imagining her future fame. In the following days, Matsuboshi continues to observe Reina's actions, and everything still seems to point toward his idol theory. One afternoon, while walking down a road lined with food stalls, he notices a small festival happening at the local shopping arcade. A trio of young female idols performs on a makeshift stage, their voices echoing through the street as the crowd claps enthusiastically. Curious, Matsuboshi watches until he suddenly realizes one of the performers is his sister. Backstage, the three girls chat about their performance when Matsuboshi approaches. His sister is visibly embarrassed to be caught, but he doesn't make a big deal of it. As it turns out, she had been invited by her friends to perform for the local neighborhood association. Just as Matsuboshi is about to lead the festival, Reina appears behind him, dressed in a striking idol outfit that matches Iru and Ren. His theory turns out to be true. Reina was preparing to be an idol. She was the one who wrote their songs and even designed their costumes, confirming that Matsuboshi had been right all along. Reina tries to explain that it was all Ren's idea, but Matsuboshi can see she's just shy about showing this side of herself. He gently reassures her, acknowledging how much confidence she's gained. They exchange a quiet fist bump as Matsuboshi wishes her good luck before she heads off for her performance. As Reina and her group run toward the stage, Matsuboshi quietly tells himself that maybe he should start having more confidence in his intuition. The music begins and the performance takes off, each move synchronized, each step delivered with practiced grace. Their choreography flows naturally, showing just how much effort they've poured into mastering every beat. With infectious energy and charm, the group ends their routine with a perfectly timed, adorable pose. The next day, the two of them are heading to school again. Matsuboshi sees Reina walking ahead, so he catches up to her. When she turns to face him, her face is covered by a mask. Matsuboshi instantly assumes Reina must have become an idol sensation because of their performance and is now hiding herself from the eyes of the public. His imagination takes over again. He envisions Reina having millions of fans worldwide, trending on social media and appearing in tabloids. He walks beside her, believing she is now out of his league. However, the truth is simpler. Reina wears the mask because her throat hurts from all the singing, but she remarks she will never sing again.